Good morning, and it is time for Lopes on Movies, the movie show that is, I think it's pretty good. Right,
It's
guys?
okay.
Like, it's not bad. I think we do a good job here.
I don't know, I haven't listened to an
halfway
episode
decent.
My name is Joey Lopes, and I am joined by friend of the show, all-around great guy, Kyle.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Mark. Thank you.
Yeah,
Hi.
I wasn't sure.
And that other guy, Mark.
This one.
That seems more appropriate.
Yeah. So today, we are going to do a couple of things. But before we get to the movie we watched, which is the new hit horror movie, Midsommar, we got a few other things to talk about. So, we've had a pretty exciting few weeks on the show, actually. We did a couple of episodes surrounding this independent movie, Say My Name, and if you've been listening to the show, then you might remember us doing that. But much to our surprise, the episodes we did really caught the attention of a lot of the team behind that movie. So the episodes we did were shared by the lead actress of the movie, Lisa Brenner, and even by Dean Devlin, whose company distributed the movie. And I don't know if you guys are aware who Dean Devlin is, but you probably know him best as the co-writer of Independence Day. He produced many of Roland Emmerich's movies, and he directed Geostorm from a few years ago. So
A pretty big name, really.
another little thing. So a couple of weeks ago, we saw The Dead Don't Die, if you guys remember, the Jim Jarmusch film. And all of us liked it pretty much. So around the time that we released that episode, our very generous host here on WVUD, Steve Kramark, kind of covertly slipped me another film under the table. So I decided, okay, I'll bite, I'll watch it. And it's a film called Student Bodies. It's a horror comedy from the early 80s. And I think the reason that he gave this to me might have been a response to me saying that The Dead Don't Die was the dumbest movie I've ever seen. I think he might have believed there was something dumber. And if that is the case, he was very much correct on this one. Actually, earlier today, he predicted that my opinion on Student Bodies would be that, it's awful, and that's all I would say. But I don't want to give him the satisfaction of just being able to accurately predict my feelings on it.
You kind of just said that he was right, though.
But, unfortunately, I feel like that might... all right, let me back up.
He's forced your hand. You have to
He has forced my
extrapolate on
hand.
it.
The best way I can describe the horror comedy film Student Bodies is that it's kind of like Airplane, but utterly unwatchable. It's so aggressively unfunny that it's kind of awe-inspiring. Like, you sit there watching and you just feel gross. You're like, oh my god, like, are they serious? This is what's happening. But I think we need to somewhat give them the benefit of the doubt, because in a truly embarrassing way, they were trailblazing with that film. Because I do not believe that there was any kind of like weird meta parody movies at that time. Like, this is like 1982 or something that this movie came out.
This poster that I'm looking at says it's the first horror comedy.
I don't know if that's true, but it's definitely the first like straight up horror parody movie that like makes very obvious meta winking jokes to the audience about being a horror movie.
Okay.
In that sense, it's kind of predicting like the scary movies, which is not really something that is like an honor. Like, I don't know if that's something you really want to be predicting, but nonetheless, it was definitely probably one of the first movies of its kind. So it being so not funny, I mean, you maybe have to give it a pass, just because at least it was doing something unique.
That really does sound like the precursor to the scary movie movies.
Yeah.
Completely unfunny.
Yeah, believe me, it very, very much was. Now, finally, we can move on to what we are here really to talk about, which is the new hit. I guess it's a hit. It seems like it's been a hit.
Doing pretty well.
Yeah, it seems like
Yeah.
people have been talking about this movie like crazy. The new hit film from Ari Aster, Midsommar. Mark, can you give us a synopsis of Midsommar?
Okay. A couple travels to Sweden to visit a friend's rural hometown for their fabled Midsummer festival. What begins as an idyllic retreat quickly devolves into an increasingly violent and bizarre celebration at the hands of a pagan cult. The film was directed by Ari Aster, known for last year's surprise horror hit Hereditary, and stars Florence Pugh, Jack Rayner, Wilhelm Blomgren, William Jackson Harper, and Will Poulter. Kyle, what would you like to say about Wicker Man 3?
Wicker Man 3, you say?
Yes.
I thought we saw Midsommar.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do guess that this is very heavily inspired by
Everybody says it in
Wicker
every
Man.
article.
Yeah, there are
too.
definitely some aspects to it that seemed very familiar.
Yeah, if you guys aren't aware,
Would you
of what
say
the
they
Wicker Man
seemed
is,
a bit cagey?
we'll
We'll get to that later. Yeah.
That's a lame joke.
That was really good. All right.
All right,
So,
Kyle, what do you
Okay.
think?
Okay. So part of me liked this movie, but the sick to my stomach feeling I had for the last like half an hour makes me think that I actually didn't like it.
That's a good way of putting
Yeah.
it.
Like, honestly, this was one of the few movies where I felt like physically ill for more than like 2 seconds. And if you see
I
it,
don't
you'll
blame
understand it, but it's hard to explain here. But anyway, I think I liked it. I liked the first half of the movie more than the second half. I felt like it kind of got a little generic in spots near the end, but
Well, it's very long.
it's
Yeah.
very
You know?
it's what is it? It's
like
over
2.5 hours,
right?
Yeah, it's really long.
Yeah. I think I liked it. I will say this, I liked Hereditary more than this, even though some of the visuals I thought were better in this, but overall not bad, but very disturbing, very gross, and nauseating.
Yeah, that's a good descriptor for this movie. Like,
Mark,
the-
what about you?
The crazy thing about these movies is I guess the byline here is I would call Midsommar the feel bad movie of the summer. And I don't
That's a great way to
quite
put it.
know what makes a movie a feel bad movie just yet. I'm trying to hash that out in my own head. But I would say a good barometer is you feeling miserable for the majority of the runtime. I felt stressed out and terrible for most of this movie, but it's really interesting, and it's actually really nice looking. It's like really well shot. There's some fantastic effects in this movie too, like just what they do in terms of just like really interesting shot ideas. Like when they first show up to the commune, the camera's, well, it's right side up, but then it starts tracking them, and eventually it flips upside down, and it's just this really, I mean, it's really basic, but it's got a really cool look of them just rolling through this idyllic field, and it's just horrifying. It's just stress-inducing, and it's the kind of thing to the point where I question why I even go to this kind of thing, because I start getting distracted from the movie because, like, I'm thinking, oh, crap, am I going to miss my train tomorrow or something like that? And I'm wondering if I feel bad because of that. And I'm like, no, wait, it's just this movie that's making me feel miserable right now. And I have to keep telling myself that in my head because I'm getting anxiety from watching this movie.
There's
and it's
nothing
not like
better
other
than,
horror movies.
Yeah, there's nothing better than going to the movies and feeling anxiety about missing your train the
Yeah.
next morning.
It's a great feeling.
It's something. But yeah, I'm like, wait, no, things aren't really that bad in real life. I'm just watching this movie about a bunch of people having a really bad time. And I can't necessarily, I guess if we're just going to cut to the quick of it, from my personal perspective, I don't know who I would recommend this to. I know who I would, but I don't want to, because it's like
You don't wanna tell
enabling them in a way. Like I don't want to tell someone to go hurt themselves. That's mean.
Oh my
But it's a
God.
really pretty movie, and if you like this kind of thing, you'll probably like this movie. So make your own judgment call, I guess.
Well,
Top that,
said, well said, Mark.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about A24, which is the distributor of Midsommar. So A24 it's like a studio and a distributor, and their whole MO is that they're committed to putting new independent films into theaters and primarily targeting like kind of a young like hip movie going audience
like us.
I mean, it's very bizarre to me that somehow this company has managed to carve out this niche audience that'll pretty much see anything they put out.
People love them.
The best way is like they're kind of like Blumhouse for elitist film snobs. I'm only half joking. It's kind of true.
Yeah, that's actually pretty accurate.
But so I mean, just for a couple of examples, they're responsible for a couple of the cult hit indie movies. So like the horror movies, The Witch and Hereditary, for example, were A24. And they put out like the quote unquote art films like Moonlight, which of course won Best Picture at the Oscars a few years ago. So regardless of kind of making fun of them for their target audience, you have to respect what they're doing. I think they're an independent studio somehow managing to get young people to go to the movies for things other than Spider-Man films.
And it's not like they're mostly pretty good movies. I like The Witch.
No, yeah,
That's
definitely
a good movie.
Like, they're all artfully done and made by people that are clearly like trying to do things.
Yeah,
they're not. They aren't your average run-of-the-mill studio like franchise film. This is they're movies.
Yeah.
They're releasing movies. It's a beautiful thing. So Midsommar is the latest A24 hit. It's definitely been like everybody's talking about this. I can't go anywhere without hearing people talking about Midsommar. And I mean, like the way you guys have described it, you're like you think you like it, and you kind of talk about it like with this like it's miserable but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm like. I'm somewhere like more on the miserable than the beautiful side. Like I understand that it's certainly very well produced, or at least the people involved are treating it with a lot of, I guess, I don't know if respect is the right word, but they're putting their all into it. You're getting something that has really tremendous performances, especially from the lead actress, Florence Pugh. She's
great.
Really
the way she like emotes so viscerally and like violently is
if I had to give a
stunning.
Collective kudos, it would be everybody in the commune itself.
Really
good
absolutely.
job, because like when you look at it, they're not really, for like let's go with 80% of the time, they're not really doing anything all that creepy, but you're watching it and you're creeped out by effectively like Swedish hippies going about their day. Yeah, they're just kind of dancing and stuff, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is horrifying."
Yeah. The undercurrent of just like it being very unsettling, is very, very potent.
Yes,
but I'm in this kind of position where this kind of movie, I just don't think this is for me. I'm not sure who it is for, but I know it's not for me. I mean, I know it's for a lot of people, but I don't understand the kind of person you have to be to go to see Midsommar and feel anything but just awful after having done so.
You're just one of those weirdos that doesn't like horrific imagery.
I can't see why anybody would feel anything other than drained coming out of this movie. I don't think that's
that one
the
guy
intent.
was cracking up.
That guy was really fun. He was having a great time with that.
Well, let me backtrack a bit. So, Midsommar is a gross movie. And it starts with this like horrific tragedy.
Yeah.
It includes some really gruesome and grotesque moments of like basically almost like body horror.
Oh yeah.
Like just like carnage type stuff.
Yeah.
And ends with this just pretty much utter hopelessness. Although I will admit it has like a little bit of a subversive edge. Yeah. It also has some jokes. There's like humor in it too. Yeah. But it's this weird tonal whiplash. I don't know what's going on.
I would put one more thing on top. It's all meaningless and pointless and miserable. Like the meaninglessness on top of all of it. You go to, I don't know what it is, but there's something that separates other horror movies that aren't feel-bad movies and this kind of thing, where there's some kind of just utter abject nihilism in this movie.
Yeah.
That isn't in even like a dumb murder spree movie like Texas Chainsaw or something like that.
Right.
Where everybody's dying and everybody's gonna die, but like it's a fun time. Like I don't know how to put it other than that.
Yeah, you can't even call this just like a slasher movie or anything like that. It's the way that it's made has this aura of like I don't know if like seriousness or importance to it, where it makes you really, really feel all of the carnage as brutally and miserably as possible. And without any kind of release from that, or any kind of sense of meaning from it, all you get is just sinking deeper and deeper into pure despair, and then the movie ends. So then you just leave the theater thinking, wow, I feel like I need to take a shower. This is awful. I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Why did I spend 2.5 hours in the theater to feel terrible?
I mean, another good byline, and I don't think this is the movie's fault. I think it was just the rest of it. But I couldn't sleep after watching this movie.
I had trouble sleeping that night also.
Yeah, it was
I can't
weird.
imagine why.
Something in the air.
Well, you were worried about your train.
I was worried about my train.
Yeah, right. I mean, of course. So, I mean, I've heard lots of people describe Midsommar as beautiful, and I understand, like, even you guys had said, like, there's some very, like, beautiful imagery in it, and some very, like, kind of like haunting and, like, dreamlike sequences would be a way of putting it. And I understand that, but that doesn't strike me as the right word. It's definitely artfully done, but beautiful implies like that I'm being moved in some way, or at least I'm getting some kind of emotional experience out of this, and I didn't feel that. I felt just utterly hopeless and miserable, which I guess is an emotional experience, but you're not getting like...
It's not a good one, though.
It's not the kind of emotional experience that feels valuable in any way. It just feels like you're getting pounded into submission
like
by something
trip.
that is actively trying to just harm you.
Yeah.
And that's... again, like, I feel like maybe that's not something that everybody else is getting out of this. Like, I think there is still... There's some element of distance in this that you can sense because of the humor. There's a little bit of a sense that maybe this is kind of a joke. Maybe the movie is like a big troll. Like, because of the humor and because of some other things that we'll get into a little later. Mm-hmm. Where maybe for a certain kind of audience, they watch this and they're not feeling the carnage as viscerally as we are, because they're looking at it with some kind of ironic distance. Like they're slightly more detached from it. Like, I mean, obviously in our theater there was that one guy that was hysterically
mostly
laughing.
that one scene though.
Like I don't think I've heard a guy laugh that much in a theater for a long time.
Which is fine. I mean, like, if you really find it that funny, whatever. But for me, like, I'm watching that scene and I'm like, yeah, this is a very awkward and uncomfortable situation, but it's also like horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much stuff happening here that is utterly horrifying.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who you have to be or in what mindset you have to be in order to watch this and not just feel gross and terrible.
I don't think that's the intent, man.
For me, I just felt gross and terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's the aim, man.
Maybe it is, but again, like, who is that for? Why do people want that experience? What, like, and I know that people do. People love this movie, and so people must want to feel terrible.
Hereditary was very similar too. That movie made you feel awful, but like you said up at the beginning, that movie was a surprise hit.
Yeah. So what can I say? I feel like I'm missing something. It's
you're missing out, Joey.
I mean, there are people that have been talking about wanting to see this like a second and third time.
Okay,
and
I've heard at least one person say they've seen it 3 times already.
Are you crazy? Like, what is wrong with you? Are you human?
Daily viewing of Midsommar, like the guy who watched Infinity War 1,000 times or whatever it is.
Or the guy that watched Grown Ups 2 every week.
Yeah. That might be even more horrifying than going to see Midsommar.
I wonder which one leaves you more psychologically damaged afterwards.
That's a very good question.
It's a
very good question.
Maybe we'll find out someday. Anyway.
Yeah, one day we'll practice this and see what.
Speaking of burning questions, I think we were left with one really
there is one burning question.
Big question after watching this movie. What was with the bear suit?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very important question.
Let me just start by saying, so at the end of this movie, and this is not really a spoiler, but let me just say there's something involving a bear suit. A character dons a bear skin.
It's going to be plainly obvious what happens when we go through what the question is, but yes.
So Mark, please continue.
Okay. Starting from where would you like me to so do you want me to go into what the question really is here?
Yeah, let's just come out with it.
Okay. We want to know if this movie referenced the 2006 horror classic, The Wicker Man, starring Nicolas Cage.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast!
Because when it comes right down to it, bears are kind of Nordic, right? It seems that it would be fitting to put somebody in a bear suit in a Nordic kind of setting.
Mm-hmm.
So there are twofold things here that we needed to make sure to eliminate. To make sure that this movie really truly made a reference to the Nick Cage vehicle, The Wicker Man.
Not the beast!
And just so, like, I'm sure you guys are aware, if you've been on the internet, if you were on the internet in like the late 2000s or early 2010s, you are aware of Wicker Man memes.
Yes.
Right? Like, you're aware of Not the Bees.
Not the beast!
And I presume you're aware of In the Wicker Man 2006 with Nicolas Cage. At one point, Nicolas Cage dons a bear suit and punches an old lady in the face.
He haymakers her. It's fantastic.
It's a truly incredible moment.
There's there's a couple of punches that are actually really good. But yes.
So the question is, knowing that this movie, Midsommar, is very clearly following in the footsteps of the Wicker Man.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the 2006 Wicker Man, but the original Wicker Man. Just the thought of a movie like that, which is, a character from outside a cult basically infiltrates a pagan cult and crazy stuff happens.
Yeah.
Right. Knowing that, did Ari Aster just meme on all of us and include a reference
to the Wicker,
to the 2006 Nicolas Cage vehicle, The Wicker Man?
Yeah.
Gosh, I hope he did.
So just to eliminate two categories. The first one is maybe it's actually a Viking reference. Maybe it's a historical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Looked it up, did some tertiary, like just minimal research on this whole thing, and the arguments I can find for it being a quote unquote Viking thing, they're pretty threadbare. The best I saw was somebody claiming it's a reference to the Berserker, where they go into a blood rage and they put them into like a trance state, so they murder people. Fact is, this movie has nothing even approaching that in terms of that in general, but especially related to bear suits. And they're doing something to the guy in the bear suit to purge that kind of evil from their society. I saw no indication that they'd even want to do that, frankly. Total bunk. This is a non-starter. So, the other thing that might be an explanation for the bear suit in this movie is maybe it isn't the 2006 Wicker Man. Maybe it's the one from the 1970s that he referenced. Maybe there was a bear suit in there, but none of us had watched it.
Yeah.
So, gotta check and see. Maybe there's a bear suit in that movie. Let me go and preface it with a little review of the 1970s Wicker Man. There's a lot of music in it. In fact, it's almost a musical for a good portion of the runtime. It's shockingly... It's aged shockingly badly, but on top of that, the 2006 Wicker Man actually plays it pretty close. And having watched this one, I've gained a new appreciation for the 2006 Wicker Man. There is no way they could have adapted the 2006 one closer to this source material and come off worse on it. They would have come off worse. The movie... The main character is a police officer who shows up on this island to look for a missing girl. And he slowly discovers that everybody's a pagan there. And frankly, well, he kind of like lords over, like, he's a Christian and stuff on top of it. And it's like, haven't you heard of Christianity? And for the most part, he comes off as a guy who really, really hates fun. He's just like, why are you guys having so much fun? Stop it. And frankly... if the movie didn't end with him getting burned alive in a giant, like, wicker guy, it would kind of just play as a comedy. Not a good comedy, but, like, it's not scary. I can't imagine it even being scary back in the day, but I assume people thought so. In terms of just pure entertainment value, I would actually recommend watching the 2006 Wicker Man instead.
Oh, dear.
Anything with Nick Cage in it is worth watching to begin with, but it's actually kind of entertaining in its own way. And especially because of how dumb it is. But
Right.
I would say, 1970 didn't age well. But here's the real deal. Here's the
real
burning
Yeah,
question.
this is what we've been waiting for.
Is there a bear suit in 1970's The Wicker Man? Well, he does don a disguise, and he does sucker punch somebody in that disguise. But it's a clown costume.
Oh,
Oh
jeez.
no.
Yeah, it's not.
All right.
It's not a bear suit.
Well, I think that this is that we've come to a conclusion here.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. Ari Aster did one of two things. He either referenced a weird, obscure Swedish berserker thing from like the ye old days, or this guy who was in his 20s when The Wicker Man was a giant meme online and is a massive film nerd who has seen millions of horror movies, referenced the 2006 Wicker Man.
And mind you, this is effectively a remake of The Wicker Man in and of itself.
I think this goes without saying. Midsommar is a meme.
Yeah.
He referenced the bear suit in The Wicker Man.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I can't. It has to be, right?
It
There's
has to
no
be.
other
I-
explanation.
I will not accept any other explanation. I don't care what he even says if he ever comes out in an interview and claims that it's not a reference to The Wicker Man. I think it is. I'm just surprised he didn't also reference Not the Bees.
Not the
I
beast!
think that would have been a step too far.
I think Ari Aster might just be a massive troll. I think he's trying to just make people feel bad and laughing all the way to the bank.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'm absolutely positive that he referenced the Nick Cage movie. 100%. There's no way it's anything else. Putting it down right there.
All right. To wrap this episode up, everybody, I would highly recommend you go check out 2006's The Wicker Man starring Nicolas Cage. There's a great scene where he punches an old lady with a bear suit on. And he you know,
He yells a lot in it.
he yells a lot.
Yeah.
Midsummer, if you like feeling bad and hopeless and just don't want to have a good time for 2.5 hours, yeah, go ahead.
If you liked
Mar-
Hereditary, you'll probably like this.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate that because you're the only one out of all of us who has seen Hereditary.
Yeah.
So you know the audience. You know the
Yes.
Ari Aster audience.
They
And,
like this creepy crap.
yeah, they're into this sort of thing. They're masochists.
Yeah.
You know, if that's-
Hereditary and this are probably the top two movies where I felt very bad by the end of them.
If that's what you're into, man, hey, I'm not one to
for it.
judge.
Yeah.
By all means, go for it. There's some pretty images. There's some interesting stuff going on. But I mean, if you like to feel bad, Midsommar that's a movie for you.
Put it on the box.